So basically, I'm based in Turin, which is in the north of Italy. And originally, well, my mother is from Sicily, so she's Italian, and my father is Persian, so he's from Iran. And they basically met in Florence, and they fell in love. My mother was working for the Italian embassy in Iran, and my father was an entrepreneur. And I pretty much studied, except on the kindergarten, and I mean, until 11 I was in Iran. Then we moved back to Italy, so my high school was in Italy, and then I also the university. I spent my time in Italy. I'm a mechanical engineer. And yeah, actually, my career is pretty strange because I went to the art institute in the high school, and then I moved to mechanical engineering, which is pretty strange,
Yeah.
pretty eclectic. And yeah, and after that, I never worked as an engineer for a day, so I moved to marketing pretty soon. And yeah, I mean, then was like 2008 the first time that I started to approach the startup ecosystem. So it's 17 years that I'm in this ecosystem.
Nice. You said your dad was an entrepreneur. What kind of entrepreneurship was he in?
Construction business.
Nice.
Yeah.
I assume so. You speak English great. I assume you can also speak Italian, and would it be Arabic?
No, it would be Persian. It would be
Persian.
Farsi, exactly. Yeah, so I speak Italian, I speak English, and Persian, which is Farsi, a little bit of Japanese, and a little bit of Spanish.
Where did the Japanese come from?
Well, actually, I love Japan. I've been there many times. I have some friends there, and then, I mean, at some point in my life, I decided to start to learn a little bit of Japanese, which is pretty basic. I mean, what's the time? Where can I find this? I don't know, choosing things at the restaurant, ordering, and so on.
Nice. I'm learning Japanese on Duolingo and just binging a bunch of Netflix as well. So,
本当
yeah. わかります。
日本語喋れますか？
はい、わかります。ちょっと。
ちょっとね。
Yeah.
ちょっとね。
It's
But I
beautiful language.
love it.
I love the music.
I love the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It flows really well. So we'll stay on topic. Hopefully we can be in Japan one day and share a bowl of ramen. So.
Definitely.
All right, tell me, you said 2008 was kind of your first taste of entrepreneurship. So how did that start, and how did it get you to kind of where you're at now?
Yeah. Well, actually, I started to work in the startup ecosystem, but not as an entrepreneur in 2008. In 2008, I joined as a commercial director, a startup which at that time was scaling. The name was Bakeka.it. Imagine Bakeka.it as a copycat of Craigslist.com that you have in US, right? So I joined as a commercial director with the goal of spinning off a company from Bakeka.it, but then unfortunately the founder passed out pretty soon from a heart attack. He was 45, so things change. When something like this happened at the very early stage of a startup, it's I mean, even if they were scaling, there was a problem. So I moved as a commercial director to Glamour, which was a copycat of Groupon, so you may know the business model. And we had pretty much, an early exit, because we sold the company to the Italian Yellow Pages after 1 year and a half. Then I opened up my own company, but we were pretty much, selling services for others. So it was not properly not a startup. We were not reinventing anything, but it was good. Was my first step forward to starting my own company. And then in 2013, alongside two other um, two other guys. We started our first startup, and we managed to sell it in 2018. And then there is Mamazen. So this is the path pretty much.
I like it. Man, what a journey. Was that all in Turin?
Yeah, I'm based in Turin. Yeah, I mean the startup was not, of course, at the end of the startup was making 6.5 million in revenues. We raised really a small amount of money because we raised like 750K, and in 5 years we reached 6.5 million in revenues per year. And so it was not only in Turin, it was in Turin, in Milan, in many other cities in Italy. And it was pretty much like, I don't know if you know Milkman Global or this kind of thing, but really, I mean, early days, so was delivery. And so we were acquired in July 2018. And on September 2018, I decided to open up Mamazen.
Gotcha. Perfect. Leads us perfectly into Mamazen. If you wouldn't mind explaining first what like a venture studio is for people who don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's start with what's not. So a venture studio is not an accelerator. It's not an incubator, and it's not a venture capital. So mainly, as I like to use the definition that Sarah Anderson used from Volt Fund. She's based in US, and we met a few times, and which is like either you are a founder or a co-founder if you want to define yourself a studio, right? So a studio is it's an institutional founder that operates, has many roles: an investor, an operator, and an entrepreneur. So if you have all these roles inside the studio, then you are a studio. So what we basically do is we build startups from scratch. And our goal is the exit. So it's not like a short-term goal, like an accelerator. I mean, they want just to get them, like an early stage accelerator would just to get the startup from like this phase to like an investor pitch, an investor day, right? An incubator stays in the early phases. Mainly they don't get equity, or maybe they are more like based on services that are paid and this kind of thing. Now, a venture studio is like an institutional founder. The goal is the exit.
Yeah. Cool. Tell me, like the early days of setting up Mamazen. Like, what did that look like? And then I'd love to hear some of the stories of the startups that are in your cohort or in your group.
Well, in the early days, actually, when I started, I was even not aware that was called venture studio. So I had this model in mind, but I was not aware. I remember that I recall that a friend of mine came back from UK, and he said, "Okay, what's next? What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I want to start do this, like co-founding all the companies that I'm going to launch, but from a different point of view with the company and so on." It says, "Oh, okay, you're launching a venture studio." I said, "What? What's that?" And basically, I realized, I really, Googled like startup studio, and I found that this business model was like the first startup studio was established in 1996 in the US and was Idea Lab, Bill Gross. And I said, wow. So, I went directly from Google to LinkedIn, and I just, typed Startup Studio CEO. And I started to reach out to any CEO that I could find, say, "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur, and I had my exit, and I'm launching a startup studio. Would love to have a chat with you." And that's it. That's how it started. So in the first, it was really hard. We started because we thought that it was easier to launch, more than one startup at once. Yeah. But basically, we found out that we had to take everything that we thought and everything that we learned and turn it into a process. And this is not easy. So it was hard. We tried to spoon off more than one startup at once, and we failed completely. So we had a rough time. So giving you an example, 2 of the startups that we launched at the very beginning, never going to pay back the work that we put in, because we underestimated a lot of things like the governance, the processes, like teaching these new entrepreneurs how to take from our experience and put into their startup. So we made a lot of mistakes. But it's right. It's what you have to do if you want to learn. And so it was good. But then after that, we started to put in place a validation process, an ideation process, how to craft the term sheets and so on. So we started to
figure it out step by step.
Yeah, exactly, step by step.
Are most of these startups coming from outside, or are these ideas that y'all had?
Well, they are not really ideas at the very beginning. We usually start by analyzing a trend, analyzing a space, looking for problems and to solve, looking for needs that are untapped and so on. So basically we start with that, then we go through like some reports, then we deep dive and go with some interview with experts in the field, and then we start, when we find something that looks like a problem, and we define, yeah, okay, this might be a hypothesis for the solution. But usually before working on a hypothesis and a solution, we usually start to deep dive and dig into the problem. So to interview people that have this problem, if they are consumers or if they are, businesses. So we want to talk with the people that are facing that problem in that business and understand what's the journey. So why the problem is still there. Is there anything that is out there that is solving this problem? And if it's not the right solution, why it's not the right solution? And then we used to do some tests like landing pages, like vectors. And we have a lot of iteration and tests that we run to see if the signals are strong or weak.
So a lot of talking to your customers beforehand.
Definitely. Before building a product, you go through a lot of interviews, a lot of tests, landing pages, ads, and so on, surveys, interviews, and you want to know. And these tests get deeper and deeper when you go down the funnel. So maybe you start with 50, 60 problems, and then you say, yeah, but it takes too long, it's too complex. The fundamentals doesn't change. In terms of unit economics, it's never going to work, or it's never going to work for us, and it doesn't fit in our investment thesis, and so on. So you go little by little, you go down the funnel, and you found out which problems are worth to be solved by your studio. So by Mamazen.
Yes, makes sense. Do you have 1 or 2 examples of kind of startups in there that you'd like to talk about?
Yep. Well, to give you an example, there are a lot of pet groomers, but right now, the adoption of pets, it's growing, exponentially. In Italy, I'm talking about the Italian market, but the European market as well. And what happened is that the demand is growing faster than the offer. And plus, we found out that pet groomers, it's really fragmented market. So just like small players, by small players, like 1 shop, 2 shop maximum, right? No chains. And beside that, we found out that a lot of like dogs don't love to go to the pet shop because they are tied up like and so they don't like it, or the smells because there are pheromones and so on, or some of them like are old, are disabled, so it's or some pet owners are old as well. So there was like a good chunk of the market that was unable to take their pets to the pet groomers. So we start to find out how many of these people was out there. And so we run some tests and so on with ads to, hey, you're unable to take your, I don't know, pet to the shop. Don't worry, you can at your home and so on. So we started with this pet grooming at your doorstep, which in 20 months, it's in 7 cities right now. It's in 7 cities. Plus, we're right now also having the retail. So we have pet grooming at your doorstep, plus we are, and right now, I mean, even if we are still small, because we are just in 7 cities, we are the biggest one. So I mean, so it was a nice niche to tackle.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense. How long would you say that initial talking to customers phase was for something like that?
Well, usually imagine that we have like this 50 problems where we start. So we have a process and we have 10 people working on this for 6 months. So in 6 months, you go from 50 problem that you found. A lot of these problems are going to be reframed. A lot of them you will see that are not problem at all, and then little by little you go down, and in 6 months you come to 3 startups that we launch. So it is I cannot say it for like the pet groomers. I cannot give you the perfect timeline for one startup, because it's really a process from starting from exactly
narrowing it down.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, because it really depends, but we have like an amount of iteration per each phase.
Nice.
Because we are time boxing.
Yeah. Nice. I think I saw on your LinkedIn you guys are looking to hire for a few positions right now. So yeah. I assume once you do the customer research, or once you kind of launch an initial idea, you probably look for somebody to kind of take it over as the founder or the co-founder of that, right?
Exactly. Usually we look for the kind of co-founder that we're looking for are people which either they had a startup, maybe they launched it, they raised some money, they made some revenues, but they failed, which usually these kind of people, they learned a lot along the way. So, and or people that have worked in scale-ups, maybe they were early hires, so they started when the company was like 3 or 5 people, and right now they are in management roles in scale-ups, but they want to build their own. Or people that come from strategic consulting, so they've seen a lot of things, they work with a lot of clients, but they want to start their own business. So these are the kind of people that we look for. And usually we see pretty much 2,000 candidates per year, and we take 2 co-founders per startup. So we accept 6. So vetting, it's really strong. It's 6 people among 2,000.
Hey.
So we have a very, very strict vetting systems, because we need the right people to run the right startup.
Nice. Perfect. All right. So I always love to ask this question, and especially with all the startup experience that you have of working with multiple startups at the same time and working with, early stage founders. What's one piece of advice that you would give to every early stage or even first time founder?
Yeah. Well, first, to be really humble. I mean, nobody knows shit. I mean, when you go out there in the market, you just have to learn. So this is something that I really learned along the way, and I really learned, with all the scars that I have, like from the market, that I mean, taking on your own ideas just because it's your idea it's usually something that never pays out.
Yeah.
And so listening is really important, and prioritizing, because when you have a startup, and let's say that you're two founders, you cannot follow every and each thing that comes along your way. I mean, you have to be very careful, and it's not like prioritizing in a company, because when you prioritize in a company, I mean, okay, I don't do it, nothing bad is going to happen. Somebody's going to do it sooner or later. I mean, nothing's gonna burn. Instead, in a startup, if let's say it's like, I have a house, everything's on fire, I have to choose which room to save, and the other are gonna burn. That's it. So prioritizing is really important. It's like putting everything away and concentrate on one thing. It's like meditation.
Stay humble,
You have to be,
prioritize.
yeah, exactly.
Keep it simple. I like it. Perfect. Anything you'd like to promote? Any job openings? Any conferences coming up? Anything? Please.
Well, no, nothing really that I want to promote. I mean, I'm just happy to give back if what I'm saying it's might be helpful for someone who's starting. So I'm really happy about that.
Perfect. Well, yeah, it's always best to give back once you've gotten a few scars yourself to help.
Exactly. Because I received. I mean, I had a lot of mentors, and if they were not there, I mean, it's always good to do anything that you can.
Yep, I agree. Well, perfect. Farhad, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, Grant. I mean, it was a good chat.
Yeah.